Breaking news from Fox Sports.
Doug, a follow-up on the Myles Garrett accusation towards Mason Rudolove. NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy says the league did look into the possibility that Rudolove used a racial slur, found no evidence of that in their investigation. So that coming from the National Football League. The exact quote is, "We looked into it and found no such evidence," end quote.
Yeah, do you have the, where's the Mason Rudolove statement? I don't know if you guys saw this. Mason Rudolph's statement read as such. Let me find it here really quickly. I thought it was kind of perfectly put. Look, it's really, really, really dangerous. Really dangerous to put that out there. And I don't, just denying it doesn't necessarily help you. Here's Mason Rudolph's statement through his attorney. According to ESPN, in his appeal, Myles Garrett falsely asserted that Mason Rudolove uttered a racial slur towards him prior to swinging a helmet at Mason's uncovered head in a desperate attempt to mitigate his suspension. This is a lie. This is a false allegation that was never asserted by Garrett in the aftermath of the game, never suggested prior to the hearing, and conspicuously absent in the apology published by the Browns and adopted by Garrett. The malicious use of this wild and unfounded allegation is an assault on Mason's integrity, which is far worse than any physical assault witnessed on Thursday. This is reckless and shameful. We will have no further comment. What do you do if you're Mason Rudolove? Buyer, what do you do?
Sue.
I have a different idea, but can I offer this up, Buyer?
Sure.
Need to go to the league and go, hey man, he needs to get another game. Can't do this. We can't live this way. We can't have this it has to be unacceptable. I saw this. Jesse Smollett. You guys remember Jesse Smollett? Okay,
yeah.
So Jesse Smollett is the black actor who claimed he was jumped by two guys and that they were yelling racial epithets at him. Right? It was like a racially motivated jumping or whatever in Chicago. Turns out he hired these two guys. And they dropped charges against him, which I thought was a mistake. But he'd clearly been embarrassed to the point of being humiliated. But the city of Chicago is suing him for, I think, like $130,000 they spent in overtime and in all these different resources they allowed trying to figure out who done it. Right? Like Jesse Smollett launched a countersuit 2 days ago. Now, if I'm the city of Chicago, you want to launch a countersuit? Fine. We're going to have to form criminal charges against you. You just can't be acceptable to make things up that aren't true. Can't. Just like it's completely unacceptable for anyone to make the remarks that they're accused of, right? The latest news that the NFL did investigate and found no such validity to the claims by Myles Garrett that a racial epithet was uttered at him, and that's why he went crazy. If that's true, and I'm Mason Rudolove, and I didn't do that, then we're like, dude, I'm going to sue you. That's possible. Or I'll just go to the league and go, hey man, this is not okay. Not okay at all. He's not contrite. Contrition is not, you know what, I'm sorry. He called me the N-word, but I'm sorry. That's not contrition. What do you think of that, Buyer? Do you think he should push for more games?
I think it could be an option. I just think of all of the, now Mason Rudolove is drawn into this.
Sure.
And I know money isn't something, but you've got to show that you are fighting back instead of just being like, I didn't say it. And it could, realistically, it could cost Mason Rudolove money. Endorsements, not that he's a bad guy, but maybe a company's like, you know what, we're just probably not going to use Mason. Nothing against him, but
yeah, somehow he gets linked into this thing. It's terrible.
Yeah,
for him.
if this was not a racial slur, and somebody was taking money, you would do it. And I think it's 10 times worse than if it was just, something of material value because it's his reputation.
Music, what would you do?
Yeah, I definitely would consult with my lawyer about, how high is the threshold for like a defamation type of lawsuit, stuff like that, to see if it's even feasible, if it's just a waste of time. But I would definitely be in contact with the league, like, whether it's a suspension that pours into next season or there has to be more punishment beyond just because he was already suspended indefinitely for the rest of the season for what he did. There now needs to be a separate, higher punishment for what is now the fact that he lied about me in order to try and recuse himself of the way that he acted. There's got to be more there.
I agree. I completely agree. Totally agree. Has to be something else done because it's really hard to fight back from the idea that you're a racist. Like, again, what do you do? I guess you just kind of keep living your life. This isn't a Riley Cooper where you have it on microphone, dropping an N-bomb, you're like, whoa. But even the accusation, and, if the NFL says we found no proof, there are people who don't believe anything that the NFL sees, right? Same people weren't against Colin Kaepernick. They don't want that in their league. They don't want any of that getting out. I just tend to believe that Mike Pouncey probably wouldn't have kicked the dude in the head if he thought he heard anybody drop an N-bomb. There's certain things you be called in life that's really hard to, prove your innocence of, right? Because it's about what's maybe in your heart and in your soul. So if you're just paying attention, just join us now. You'll remember last Thursday night, there's a game between the Steelers and the Browns. What's overshadowing the Mason Rudolove didn't play well. Browns actually showed some toughness and won a huge game is the fight that happened with 8 seconds left to go in the game. Next to the last play of the football game, Mason Rudolove dumps the ball off, gets tackled by Myles Garrett, taken to the ground and landed on Myles Garrett, which should have been a penalty. They get into it while Garrett is on top of him. Rudolph tries to get him off, uses his foot, then tries to grab the face mask, only to be retaliated against by Myles Garrett, who grabs the face mask and pulls Mason Rudolph's helmet off. Then when Mason Rudolove runs back at him to try and get the helmet back, Myles Garrett swings the helmet. After the game, by the way, Ramos, do we have the sound of Myles Garrett after the football game? Because today we learned that Myles Garrett went into the appeals hearing and said, hey, what I did was wrong, but he called me the N-word. The NFL said they investigated and found no validity to those claims. But look, it would explain a little bit more. The problem with it is the hearing was 6 days removed from the incident. This was right after the incident in front of his locker. Here's Myles Garrett.
It's going to come back to hurt our team. The guys who jumped in the scrum, I appreciate, my team having my back, but it just never got to that point. That's on me. A win's a win. I don't think it's overshadowed by what happens in 8 seconds. Play a hell of a game on defense. Offense came out firing, and we held it down from there on. What we did on the field of play for the rest of that game for the first 59 minutes, that shouldn't go unnoticed.
That sound like a guy who somebody just called the N-word to and he went crazy? Right? I'm not wrong here, am I? If somebody says something that brings you to a level of anger, you would think that while the anger at first would subside, when then people question you in front of your locker about what you did and how it hurts your team heading forward, at any point would you go, hey, there's actually two... You don't even have to say what he said. You could say there's two sides to every story. There's more that needs to come out about what actually happened. But that didn't happen because it didn't happen. I don't believe it for a second. Is it because I know Mason Rudolove a little bit? I bet probably a little bit. Is it because he plays in a team that's coached by an African-American head coach? Maybe it's a little bit of it. The fact that he's played this long and no one's ever said that much, maybe a little bit of it. But a lot of it is just the reality. You get into a fight, you know a suspension's coming, you know how ugly it is, you know that even your own quarterback came out and was critical of what you did, the selfishness of it, and not at any point did you even say, hey, there's two sides of this. There are some things said that shouldn't be said, and I reacted, and I probably overreacted. None of it. I don't believe you. You are not only a liar, people lie all the time. Like, I understand lying. People lie. Right? Do I look fat in these pants? No. No. Were you looking at her? No. Ooh, I was just stretching my neck. Oh, my neck. Just slept funny. Right? People lie all the time. Man, people lie all the time. I love your show. You do? Where do you listen to it? What time is it on? What station? I love your show. Just program it in my car. Sit down and it's on. Love what you're doing over there at ESPN. Really? CBS. Yeah, no. 0 for 2. Try again. People lie all the time. But a lie that does so much damage to somebody else's credibility, and a lie that is really, really hard to prove because there's so much, especially now in society, there's a confirmation bias to it. Oh, I knew it. I knew it. Mason Rudolove. What kind of name is Mason? Oh, he's from the South, huh? He's from South Carolina. See these tweets? Apparently he voted for Trump. All Trump supporters are racist. Right? Of course he dropped an M-bomb. Kids these days. I actually think that smartly we're breeding out of our society racist. Right? There are very few people who are truly racist anymore. Just like there are very few people who say who name Washington. They don't exist. I mean, they do, but I'm very limited. A perfect example is when they'll have, some sort of white supremacy like protest, then they'll have a counter protest, which is like 15, 20 times the size. Yeah, because that's the reality of the world we live in. A super small minority of people are bothered by the way society is going, which is breaking down lines of race and marital status and sex and age, all the things that used to kind of hold us back. Norms just don't anymore. You judge people as people. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but on a much smaller scale than we're really doing justice. On the other hand, what does get a burr in people's saddle is when just because you're a white dude, you're called a racist. And that's Mason Rudolove today. I mean, yeah, the NFL said they investigated, but you know how people view the NFL investigations. Well, they couldn't even get the tape on Ray Rice. Couldn't get the tape. They've never produced the PSI findings on Deflategate, which is true. Whatever happened to the PSI? Remember they're going to do a year-long investigation on inflation rates of footballs based upon the weather? Remember that? Am I supposed to believe the league that's blackballing Colin Kaepernick isn't hiding the fact that Mason Rudolove, quarterback of their beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, isn't a racist? Yeah, you actually are. Because common sense would tell you that it didn't happen. If it did happen, you think Myles Garrett would have been calm, cool, collective, reflective, and trying to downplay the moment, knowing that it hurt his team, knowing that it took away from their win? Of course. But that's because common sense is not that common. Not that common. Yes, John Ramos.
Such a big thing to say with the racist thing. What would lead you to what do you like? Wouldn't it be better just to take the games and then start up next year? Like, that is such a gigantic claim that, proven not true, allegedly, if it's not true, makes it even worse. Like, just take the games and say, this is what happened, we're done. Instead, you make a claim of an alleged incident.
Right,
That when proven not guilty, not true. It's big.
Which makes it hard to believe that he would make it up. Right? Like, why do that? I would say because it's really hard to prove he didn't. Well, the microphone didn't pick it up. Yeah, but our face masks were locked. He was 3 inches from my face. I heard what I heard. Like, dude, Marcus Smart did this when he was at college. Yeah, another Oklahoma State guy. You guys remember Marcus Smart went in the stands at Texas Tech, and he said some fan dropped an N-bomb at him? And look, you walk in, if you played in the Big 12, you played at Texas A&M, played at Texas Tech, you know that they yell some nasty, nasty stuff at people. They just do. That's what Taco Tech is known for. Taco Tech, because they throw tortillas. In football, they throw tortillas at the opposing teams. Right? But they will yell some nasty stuff at you. But an N-bomb, it's a special level of nastiness. And no microphone, no lip reading, no one picked up anybody dropping an N-bomb at Marcus Smart. But when you're doing it at a football player who plays for a black head coach in a league which is made up, I don't think it's 85% black. I think it's more like in the 60% black variety. But it's, like, look, that does a ton of damage, which is really, really hard to come back from. Because you're thinking, well, Riley Cooper did it. Why wouldn't this guy do it? Riley Cooper's his own man. I don't know. You guys heard what he said after a game. It's pretty hard to go from there to, oh yeah, he called me an M-bomb like a week later. I'm sorry, don't buy it. And I would actually say that lie deserves a longer suspension. And I was a guy that said, like, I don't care, 5 games, 4 games. You want to do it 6 so it's clean through the rest of the season, fine. This shouldn't be the end of his football career. But man, you add in claiming a racial epithet was uttered when all other parties say it wasn't uttered. Hard to stand by that guy getting back in the league. Would maybe consider giving him an additional game or 2 next year. I'd consider it. Hi, I'm Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports Radio, and you need to subscribe to the Fox Sports Radio YouTube channel where you can hear and see me. Why not? Plus everybody else who's awesome here in Fox Sports Radio.